Okay.
Right now I just got my own apartment. I'm moving out next week, so the 14th of December. That's gonna be new, man. New chapter for sure. But I think it's gonna bring a different level of confidence for me because I no longer have any dependent relationships. I don't need anybody to pay my bills. I don't need anybody to cook for me or to make plans for me. I could just go out and just be.
Yeah. I mean, though, okay. What is that like? So I know you was living with your moms, right?
Correct.
How does it feel, bro? Getting your own place now, being independent. Like, how do you feel?
I just saw the landlord on Wednesday of this week, and then I went to see the apartment. That's where we agreed, and I said, yeah, I'll take it. And he's very Dominican, bro. So Dominican. Very proud of him. Very successful. Has 40 doors.
Okay.
So 40 units.
Yeah.
And he's straight from DR.
Okay.
And he's not even 40. Very impressive, bro. But he says guy a lot. So when I say this shit, it's gonna be funny. But basically, he was like, when I viewed it, I had one question. I said, una pregunta. Este apartamento, la renta viene con todo, como el gas, internet. And he was like, no, guy. no viene con nada. So then I realized, damn, I'm gonna have to pay rent. Then I also gotta pay gas, electricity, internet. So it's gonna be a challenge, but I see that more as an opportunity for me to grow.
Yeah. Are there things like have you encountered any unexpected?
Unexpected? Well, not yet, because I haven't even moved out yet. So that's like 7 days from now, but mentally I'm ready.
All right. Damn.
So I don't like being caught by surprise, to be honest. I'm not one of those people, but I've been preparing myself, like cooking wise. Like I've had a good 8 weeks knowing that I was gonna move out this year.
Yeah. That's crazy. How's your family taking it?
Well, I'm 24 years old, bro.
Brother, I mean, I'm 25. I'm still at the crib, but mind you, I also support a lot of the household expense. You know what I'm saying? So
correct. My family, they were very sarcastic. They're like, yay, por fin, like finally. But I don't know. It'll happen naturally. I bet they will feel more alone when one member leaves, because I feel like my parents bond a lot over talking shit about me. Like,
really?
You know what I mean? That's a natural conversation. Let's say I don't do something in the house, they get to bond with each other and have a conversation, and that's just another conversation, because a lot of times it's hard to spark conversation.
See, I wouldn't have expected your parents talk shit about you. I can't expect nobody talking shit about you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not from like a professional standpoint.
I know.
But like just living with people, everything triggers you. The smallest things, like, oh, you didn't clean that plate. So then they start talking shit. You know what I mean?
There's like one little spot on that shit, you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Maybe a little soap stain or whatever.
That's something I've been working on crazy this year.
Yeah, you've been dealing with the triggers?
Yeah, I noticed that I was like easily bothered by the slightest thing.
I felt that. And it's like going away now, you'll be able to have a little more peace. You know what I'm saying? Less triggers around. Less people hassling you, talking shit about oh, the garbage, oh, the dishes, oh, this and that, because now you can do everything on your own time.
Correct.
No.
Yep, and I don't have to be on anybody else's plan. So let's say my dad wants to do something. Oh, let's go fix this car. I woke up and didn't have that plan in my mind. So that caught me by surprise. Same thing, like my mom would tell me, hey, let's paint this room out of random. And let's say you have like a natural inclination that you want to do something with your time, but when you live with other people, you also have to consider what they also want to do and what they want to get accomplished.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Got to move a little more as a unit. Damn, that's crazy. Then, and on that note, because I know you said at the beginning of this conversation you wanted to talk about breakthroughs through this recent year. You know what I'm saying? Possibly dealing with some frustration at the crib, and then getting yourself out of it and not having your own apartment. You know, have you had any breakthroughs? Have you had any, you know what I'm saying? What's been that?
Yeah. So breakthroughs, I've learned a lot this year, as always. But this year, asking myself those questions really helped me. They were like the launching pad for me to just get to the next level. And professionally, mentally, financially. And I just wanted to mature. I just thought that people won't be able to listen to me clearly if I wasn't in a situation that they could relate to or they wanted to be in. So for instance, if I was living with my parents and I was talking about financials, but I got way less bills than the average person, then they'll be like, well, from your perspective, you don't know what it's like to pay 2 bands for rent every month. But now I want to put myself in that situation and commit to it because now we could bond over something, and it's not just intellectual theory. It's like, yo, I also feel where you coming from, you know?
No, damn, okay. I have a few things with that, right? Because sometimes that sounds to me like when people say, oh, you don't have kids, you don't know what it's like. You don't think that perhaps that it is somewhat dismissive of others to say that? You know what I'm saying? Because from my experience with you, even if you don't have the experience, you're someone with vast financial knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Because you've been a student of it, and you literally work in the finance industry, right? Yeah, you don't feel that type of way? You don't feel like that there could be some wrongness to that type of attitude?
Yeah, I definitely think that people could learn in any situation. You don't have to be, like if you think of Viktor Frankl, like in a situation where it's hell for you to learn a lesson or to make a breakthrough.
Yes.
Me personally, like I have a good relationship with my parents. It's not that I had OD frustrations, like real ones. It was more minor ones, you know? And then they're just like, oh, just because you can't clean your room when I want it clean, it's like, well, maybe my attention is shifted somewhere else and I'm putting my energy into this purpose or into this project that sometimes, like when I don't clean something the way you want it clean, us arguing over it, and I just don't want to give my parents attitude because they asked me of something.
I know what you mean.
You know?
It's almost like a move to maintain the friendliness of the relationship.
You talked about parenting, and I didn't think we were going to go there, but one thing that if I were in that situation, like as a parent, the first thing that I would prioritize, like with my kids, is like self-regulation skills. Meaning, I see a lot of kids who they have no emotional control.
It's true. Yes.
So if they feel this way, they throw a tantrum. Like they just act crazy. So, and it's harder to gain control now because you're gonna notice that most parents, they try to delegate attention to technology. Like rather than spending time with their kids and, you know, social connection.
No, absolutely.
They just rather like, yo, I just had a whole day of work. I'm mentally exhausted. My kid has so much energy right now. Let me put their attention, their energy on this TV show. But then now you have the TV show programming your kids, showing them how to think, how to act, how to behave, and it's just like
things that
I'd rather have the control over
absolutely
that, you know.
I was just telling somebody yesterday, you know, don't raise kids you're gonna hate. Like if you see something your child do a behavior or something, you gotta correct that. And you know, one argument was that, oh, even if you correct it, it doesn't mean they're gonna listen. But also knowing this person, their form of correction also isn't always correct. You know what I'm saying? And I think thinking about our community, Dominican parents, Puerto Rican parents, I imagine there's other ethnic groups of parents who do the same thing that our parents do in terms of like, just that the form of correction isn't always correct. And it often leads to just patterns of more miscorrections. And it compounds on it where, talking about emotional regulation, where I know one reason, well, I think there's a lot of economic factors, obviously, that lead to challenges when it comes to parenting. There's also the fact that, like, we've, a lot of our parents and a lot of us who will soon be parents never learned those emotional regulation skills.
There you go,
How can you teach your child to emotionally regulate if you don't know how to do that, right? That's something that I've had to come to a reckoning with when I deal with my own parents, right? Where I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna stop fighting with y'all because I've come to the realization that y'all never learn necessarily how to have a productive argument. And if we're both yelling, then we're never gonna come to that place of a productive argument or productive conversation.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? That was my breakthrough. That's been one of my breakthroughs recently. You know what I'm saying?
Me too. When I asked myself those questions, immediately I put like conscious effort into them. So I was just on my porch. It was a nice sunny day in November. It was recent. And my first question that really like hit me was, why do I care so much? Like, damn, you know? And I was just thinking about, I'm referring to like caring about what other people, you know, thought about me. And that's where I saw all the limitations. Things that I couldn't see before, I was like, oh shit, they're popping up now and I can see them. And I was just on my porch, bro, and I was like, damn, imagine if I could just not, or reduce that level of care, or eliminate it, even better. What can I do with that free energy now? And bro, it was a lot. I don't know how it came about or how I got programmed to like care about these things so much. But I see so many young and even, you know, older people predicate their self-esteem, their self-worth, their self-image on like their physical appearance, validation from others, external, personal achievements, whether you win or you lose, social status, like, oh shit, I'm too poor, and then you just kind of predicate your self-worth because, oh, I come from a poor family, or I'm not physically attractive compared to so-and-so, or, you know, Daniel gets all the attention, all the validation, and then nobody cares about me, you know what I mean? So then I feel bad about myself. But what was a breakthrough for me was, what if, because self-image is too big, bro, of a thing to let slide. The reason why I say that, right, you might have a disagreement, but the thing is that if I want to win in life and I perceive myself as a loser, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
No,
like, I'm going to just be a loser because I think I'm a loser, and everybody's going to, energy is contagious, bro, contagious. And if I feel that way, you are going to subtly, empathically, you're going to feel like, oh shit, he's a loser. He thinks that about himself. So it's not really about how much external things that you have, but if you predicate your self-image on like your work ethic, how you treat people, how you greet people, like these are game changers, bro.
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's important, something I think that's important to note in that, right? Because I think when people hear the word self-image, it's similar to when people hear the word selfish, right? Or when people hear other words that may have a sort of negative connotation. I think a word like self-image has a negative connotation to it, but it's not in itself negative. Because just because it's used and it's often like talked about that way in the public sphere, right? Self-image is one of those things, like many things, that's very neutral, and it depends on the holder of it, right? Because like you said, right, I think some people are so like anti-self-image that they bring themselves to the point of almost seeming to not have a sense of personhood, right? But then some people are so locked in on controlling their self-image that their whole personality is manufactured, right? And so like the idea of authenticity stems from the alignment of your self-image with your real image. Not your real image, but your public image, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there's the way people see you and there's the way you see yourself, right? But I'm gonna put that to the side again real quick, because I think something, to just acknowledge something you said. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the value of learning philosophy, Daniel? You studied that shit for 4 years. What's the point of that, right? And I'd be lying to you if I said philosophy's made me like any money. Necessarily, right? No one's ever paid me to do philosophy, right? However, you know, what studying philosophy does, what studying almost anything does, is that it affects your perception, all right? What you think and what you see affects what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, right? If you have a poor self-image, if you see yourself as less, if you think, I wrote this in my book, a child who is told that they are stupid will grow up believing they are stupid and will never take confident action. You know what I'm saying? That leads to just positivity in life. You know what I'm saying? And I love that also you're using the language of programming, something I've been working on recently is a cognitive and decision making workshop. Okay. And it all has to do with that. Well, there's a good portion of it that has to do with perception and image. You know what I'm saying? And how we see others and how we see ourselves, right? And the need to, you know, not, you once said a year ago, reduce importance. Correct. And I think, you know, that's important when it comes to caring and not caring. But I think also prioritizing importance. Yep. Right? Because you're right, the perception of a random stranger of you on the street doesn't matter necessarily, right? However, if you got a video of you doing whatever stupid type of substances, putting whatever in your nose, and then you got an employee who sees that on Facebook, right? That's a type of harm, right, that can come to your image. That's when it might not be a bad time to care. You know what I'm saying? Because it might be the money that pays your rent at the end of the day that comes into effect.
I could go off like a lot of things you said. Talking about perception, please. I have a framework around perception that really, another breakthrough for me. Please. Which is perception versus perspective.
Perception, I gotta hear this.
And I'll get into that. And then you talked about philosophy, same thing. Like the 4 categories that I really like to learn about, one, philosophy. It teaches me how to live, teaches me how to be more calm. At times I operate off of either hope or fear. And philosophy kind of teaches me that either or is going to lead to me being an emotional wreck. So if you hope something, an outcome's going to happen, and it doesn't happen, bang.
Yes, disappointment.
You give yourself an ideal, and then that ideal doesn't happen. Now you have these expectations that you're left with, and there's a gap. But then if I always just compare and measure myself backwards instead of doing an ideal, am I better? Like in all aspects of life than Gene yesterday or Gene a month ago, and I could be like, hell yeah, then there's a gain there. I positively progress. But anytime you go ahead and put something in forward view, it's like you become your own puppet.
That's a really cool way to actually break it down.
That's called the gain and versus the gap.
The gain versus the gap.
Correct.
You want to like, okay, oh wow, that's way better than whatever I was gonna say. The gain versus the gap. All right. Identifying identifying the growth rather than the deficit. All right. I like that. Okay. I want to hear more about this perception versus perspective thing.
Okay. So you're talking about perception. How do you define perception again?
If you're trying to pay for Daniel to go back to school, like and subscribe.
Help the youth.
Yes, I'm the youth.
Again?
Okay. I mean, perception is all in all a combination of how you see yourself and how you see the world. The collection of facts, beliefs, and other assortments of information contained in your mind.
Which is limited. You're only relying on your 5.
On your 5 senses, right?
Correct. See, taste, smell, so be it.
To the point of seeing and hearing, you know, you only have what you hear, what people tell you, and you only have what you see. Again, what you see. All right.
And if I only rely on that, when the world it's abundant, there's so many different perceptions. One thing that gives me an advantage in almost all situations is that I now become more influential when I'm the first person to be considerate.
When you're
consideration.
Okay. Explain.
Consideration is like, I came up with this with, I was doing a teaching, like I was teaching a lesson about influence, breaking down persuasion, like persuasion versus influence. And one of the things that you need to be influential is consideration. Because if I'm only relying on my perception and I can't zoom out, pause, zoom out, and then take other people's perspectives on things, you see how it creates more of a collaboration type of thing. It flows.
I understand what you mean.
Instead of just me force feeding.
Yeah, it's the okay. Hold on. I think I kind of understand what you mean, right? I want to hear a little bit more about the context. Actually, like. No, because I still don't understand the difference between perception and perspective here.
Yeah, I'll break it down now.
Okay,
So perception is so limited. You live in this small world, right? It's only what you see, what you hear. You're kind of, that context is so limited. But as you zoom out, I kind of free myself and give myself peace, because anytime I'm just thinking about me and the I've always just experienced, like, obviously there's times where I just fuck with myself. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm doing great things, small wins, small victories, and I just feel better. But there's times if I'm not doing anything and I'm just thinking about myself, a lot of negative thoughts just come about. When you are able to pause, zoom out, and then consideration, somebody else's experience, somebody else's point of view. Did you hear the same thing? Did you interpret it the same way? In a conversation, I talk to a lot of people. In 3 months, I'm gonna talk to over 1,000 families. I have so many opportunities to take in. I forget about me. It doesn't matter how I feel in the moment or what I'm thinking about. If I could have this selective attention on this individual, so I'm outer intention instead of inner intention, they naturally just open up to me, and then they go from not knowing who I am, and then I'm like, because the perception of me is like, yo, this is 24-year-old. Do I trust that he's competent? Do I trust that he knows what he's doing? He looks mad young. You know what I mean? But then after they spend like it could be 50 seconds, because how I greet them changes the whole interaction with warmth, with like, bro, I've known you from somewhere else and I don't even know them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But isn't it just a great feeling when someone sees you and they just light up?
No,
you know what I mean?
I do know exactly
you could do that consciously. You don't have to have a dope relationship prior. You could just go and intentionally light someone's day.
Sometimes what you project is what you get reflected.
Correct.
And if you put forth warmth and kindness, sometimes that breaks down the barrier for people to return it, right? We're reciprocal animals, right? We work on give and take. And the more we can work to initiate the give, the more we can get, right? And not just materially, but just immaterial relationship-wise. That warmth we
energy,
talking about.
bro.
Energy, exactly.
It's infectious. It's contagious.
Yeah.
I practice it like intentionally all the time now. Because I used to be the person that would be like, good morning, hey. That's it. That was my energy level.
I know what you mean.
It's capped off. But when I see somebody now, I used to have like a fake smile where like my smile would only go so high, but then I understand that like my smile has to reach my eyelids for it to be genuine. So I literally put in effort to like smile even wider than I need to, because now I have a behavior that I've been programmed, conditioned, like I just naturally choose to do that. But with the 5% of consciousness that I have, I could make an impression on my subconscious, the 95% that makes up how I am right now.
Yeah.
And every time I consciously make an impression, the mind's very impressionable. And like you were saying, wherever the mind goes, the body follows.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes too, wherever the body goes, the mind follows. However, because I wanna like pause for a second, because I wanna rephrase the perception versus perspective. I just wanna like phrase it in the way I understand it now, because I think it is genius. Is the idea of perception exists in your head, right? Even when you close your eyes, you can still perceive things, in the sense where there's still some imagination, or there's still some sensory experience. But perspective is outside of your head. Perspective is your mind and your body, where you're contextualized, where you're situated. Perspective is about vantage point. You know what I'm saying? Where you can position yourself to see something, right? And your perception will influence what it is you're seeing, but perspective determines how much you can see. You know what I'm saying? And that's when you can introduce new elements you might not have known you didn't know yet. You know what I'm saying? Because you've increased your range of vision. You know what I'm saying?
If I could say something, it kind of sounds like more of a moving with a worldview than a personal view, right? It's more about being involved, right? It's more about you're in your community, right? You said pause, look out. What do you see the bigger picture, instead of just your picture? It's not what you're painting. It's what are we painting? You know. Interesting.
Can you break down a little more? What do you think is the difference between a personal view and a world view?
A personal view is what you were saying, like your perception. It's your personal. It's what your five senses have taught you. Versus what has everybody been taught. Like we all have different taste buds. You don't see colors the same. I'm colorblind. You know what I'm saying? But you tell me it's red because we agreed on that. So what are we doing as a community? Like, what's our worldview?
I think I understand. I think I understand what you mean. Also, are you colorblind?
Yeah, actually.
That's kind of funny. I've known you for years. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like that.
Sometimes it fits us off, you know?
I like that. That was perfectly explained.
Yeah.
It's like we have such a selective focus, but now you open up your attention, your focus, and you take on a worldview, and you get so much more information and data, and then you can make more informed decisions. It's just a game changer. Plus, it works so well in sales, because when you're in front of someone and you consider their situation, we're empathic. Because now I get to ask better questions because I'm more focused on them. I also get to see their emotions, what's relevant, what's top of mind. Because if I'm focused on myself and we're having a conversation, you said this last time, you're like, yo, I hate when I'm about to say someone and someone predicts what I'm about to say. Yeah. But bro, you just gotta understand the brain functions that way. Like my brain is gonna do that naturally. It's trying to detect patterns. So it's gonna try to catch and identify the patterns to see if I already know what you're about to say, and if I could have a feeling, a prediction that you are gonna say what I think you're gonna say, I could just start thinking about what I'm gonna say and I generate a response. It's our brains, bro. But you might get mad at me.
It's still rude.
It's still rude, but that's just how my brain is. Think about how much
I think it's
intention
on a personal level, right?
Yeah.
You said what I was going to say, but if you think about it, bigger picture, we had the same idea.
No, because there's a further context in here. It's a matter of when someone predicts what you're gonna say and they're wrong. You know what I'm saying? But we're not derailing the conversation because what you're saying is valid though. Because what you're making is a cognitive observation, and I think that's true, right? I think on a deeper level there, I think the reason why some people are cognitively wired that way is slightly because of there's some ego going on there that impulses the brain to do that type of argumentation style rather than listen. You know what I'm saying? Listen first.
That's a commitment that I've been big on. Actively listening.
Yeah.
A daily commitment that every time I put it to practice.
Is it hard?
Of course. Is it hard to actively listen? Come on, dog.
No. I think it's too. I don't know. I feel like I have that ability to passively listen. I'm like, my brain is like, I'm always absorbing information. I'll be hearing some shit from a distance. I'll be like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. To actively listen, though, no. You know what? You're right. You know what? I think I don't actively listen enough.
It's a skill.
It is a skill, right? And I think I notice it. Sometimes I think this happens for me as a very solution-oriented person. Sometimes I don't care about what emotions are tied to a problem. I just want us to solve the goddamn problem. Because sometimes I don't think there's no point in the feelings. However, in dealing with people, you know, you're not just dealing with numbers, solutions, possibilities. You're dealing with psychological animals.
And you gotta go into the emotions though. I know you wanna be solution oriented, but when you're working with people, you gotta get them to commit, not to show interest.
It's true.
You understand the difference between those two, interest versus commitment?
I think so. I want to say that I think that reminds me of this. There's this thing. It's called the expedience bias. We want things the fastest way possible, and sometimes going through the emotions doesn't take you the fastest way possible. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's a lot more laborious. The solutions are simple, but the people aren't. But hold on, what were you just saying? Because you were saying something really interesting there.
Well, you just said it before this podcast. You was just like, sometimes people don't listen to logic. Yeah. So in order for me to get to listen, commitment versus interest. I need to gauge their interest and get it to the next level, which is commitment. That shit had me stuck, bro, for the longest time.
Okay. And tell me more about like what's been that process like for you?
You have to rely on like your natural feedback. So based on like, does this energize me or does this drain me of my energy? You got to take note of that. So for instance, last time I was here, I rewarded myself a piano. I got the piano, right? I hit one of my goals. That was my reward. I learned about myself that I enjoy listening to the piano, whether it's in the background on a song, it's just the piano. I don't care. I rock with that shit. Then when I got myself a piano, I started playing it. I knew that my interest levels were just interest. They weren't strong enough for me to get lost in it. State of flow, where you're immersed, you lose track of time. It's like we're having a dope conversation. You're not thinking about anybody else. You're not thinking about the environment or the time. You're just here with me. I couldn't get lost in the piano. So what I learned is I don't actually like to play it. I'm not committed enough to learn it, but I just love listening to it. And that's it. I made the distinction. I could just move on to the next thing. You understand? I don't waste more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you have that thing too. It's a piano. It never hurts to have a piano.
So what we all got to do is, there's so much out there. There's so many women that you could date. There's so many job opportunities that you could embark on. It's just like, when you think about it, young people, like last time, you're like, bro, Gene, there's so much I want to do, bro. I got so many things going on. And I was like, yo, Daniel, if you have that mindset, you might not get anything done, or you might not make the progress or the impact that you want to make. What's difficult about this process is that you do have a lot of interest.
Yeah.
I could sit here today and be like, oh, I want to be a consultant. And on top of that, I want to be an investment banker. And I want to be a photographer and a podcaster. And it's like, wait a minute.
No, I know what you mean. You need focus in life, right?
Singular focus.
And I think, I think this year I've discovered that focus, right? But I want to touch back on the idea, this podcast we've been doing, that's what I've only been working on for the whole year.
Let's go.
But because, I love the way you phrase that, right? And you just kind of gave me a language to something I kind of been working on. And it's that idea of interest versus commitment. And especially as creative people, especially just as young people living in a consumer society where we have so many options, right? There's so many everythings out there for you to have. There's so many millions of things you could possibly do. And I know just because I know a lot of people in the art community where we live who struggle with the focus because they have so many interests. And it's like, you know what? That idea of finding what you can commit to versus what you're interested in, right? I found that thing I can commit to, not just that thing I was interested in.
Let's go, baby.
Right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm discovering more things that I can commit to, but it's also by going through the process of crossing out interests. You know what I'm saying?
Well, commitment, if you define it, is the elimination of alternatives. So when you commit, it's a natural thing. You don't get distracted when you're focused on something. You actually just tone it out. It's just noise to you. It's easier to say no. But then you realize, I'm a people pleaser and I say yes to, my boy wants to go chill. Yeah, let's do it. It's because you have no purpose. You have nothing meaningful to be working on. It's not because you are just a yes man. It's because you have no focus. That's it. You want to solve a problem, fix the root cause.
That's a bar, dog.
That's it, bro.
Some of us aren't yes people. We're not yes men and yes women. It's that we don't have a purpose, important enough to us to keep us from saying no to those other distracting things. You know what I'm saying? And rather what we have is an assortment of interests that we're not committed to. You know what I'm saying? Damn, son, that's a fucking bar.
It's just an advantage, bro, that you don't worry about competition no more because you just understand everybody's distracted. Because you know how easily distracted you are. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so once I understood that and I finally committed to my purpose, it's game changer. I just focus on measuring myself backwards. I live in the game.
You live in the game, not the gap. Woo!
Correct.
That's dope. I like that. Oh, shit. Okay. All right.
Process that, bro. That's just deep. That's life breakthrough moment, for me at least.
That's it, wrap it up.
I could go. Yeah. I could go into my purpose.
How long we been going?
A little over 30.
Over 30 now. We good. We going to an hour. Let
me just do this right here.
I want to hear more about. I want to hear about your purpose, brother.
My purpose?
Yeah.
This happened. This was one of the best moments of my entire year, finding my purpose. I was actually in another podcast, and we have this mentorship group at my job, And you know my mentor, Rob, he's a CEO of the accounting firm that I'm at. And man, he's at another level, dog. Energy-wise, I remember the beginning of the year, he was just down. Our finances, we were down. And then the swing was crazy. Swing was crazy. Like in terms of profit, like we were negative profit margins to now like a $400,000 swing.
Yeah, you hit that drought and then you hit that rainfall.
Cause he's the leader, bro. And we all trust him. And he just has a mind that he's just always observing people. And the way he's good at this is that he's always picking up when you light up, when you get energized. So if he sees that you're interested in something, he'll take note of that. This dude's a true leader. He went around the room, bro. We had like an hour-long podcast, and he said, yo, I want to take a stab at something. And we're like, what he's about to say? And he goes around and says, hey, I'm going to say what I think your purpose is. Each one, 5 people, bro. This is crazy. And he hit everybody. We all left there like on some shocked, like crazy. And when he got to me, bro, he left me for last. He was like, Gene, I think you already know what your purpose is. And I was like, let me see what he's about to say, bro. I'm tuned in. I'm leaning forward, interested as hell. And Rob says, Gene, if you don't find yourself in a life where you're always learning and then always teaching what you learned, he just shook his head and said, you'll be miserable. Damn, dog. And that was the truth, bro. That hit me. It hit my core. It hit my essence. I just knew it once I heard that. And the way he said it, bro, and the way he built it up, I was just so all in. My singular focus, I heard it, touched my heart. And then from that day on, like, I started understanding that, yeah, every time I went a period in my life where I stopped this learning mode and I stopped teaching, that's when I never felt good about myself, depressed, miserable, call it whatever. But anytime I'm in that mode, bro, there's something about me, about my life, that anytime I've learned something, there's like this, I don't know what to call it, bro, but this is just this energy in me that I have to share it with someone else.
Absolutely.
I can't learn something and not share it. So, and if somebody like restricts access from me from sharing it, I'm gonna break through that shit.
You find it annoying.
You understand?
I know.
Hell yeah. And then I've felt miserable ever since, because it's just like, you build this teaching mode.
Yeah.
Like if you have this teaching habit, it forces you to learn. Wow. If you're always doing podcasts, if I have training sessions every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 11 with like my company, like I run that. So it's just like, I always have opportunities. And if not, I create them. I create them.
Brother, let me tell you something, man. It's actually wildly ridiculous that you said that was your purpose. That what was it, to learn and to teach, right?
Yeah.
Because, man, that's this is maybe why we've always been good friends, man. Because I think that is also my purpose.
It's very similar, yes.
Because I felt that when I was in college. I felt that when I was in high school. Right, not in, I guess I'm really my senior year, right? When I graduated, I got a job like leading a youth task force for the freaking mayor, right? And so I guess what you would call it, it's one of those things that I've actually fought against, you know what I'm saying? For the last like maybe 2 to 3 years. I think this last year, 2024, I've embraced it way more. Because again, it goes back to that idea of self-image, right? Sometimes something about self-image, sometimes you don't like what you actually are, right? Sometimes I didn't like that I was a teacher and an educator. I think naturally, because on one hand, there's a perception around teachers and educators that they're broke as hell, right? Okay. And I never wanted to attach myself to that, right? And on top of that, I hate dealing with administrative politics, city politics, right? They just dropped the whatchamacallit, the free LPS documentary in our city, which really free Lawrence Public Schools, because our public schools have been under state control, state occupation for the last 13 years, right? And so, you know, and like if you being a teacher in that system it gotta be the worst. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's one thing that is being misinterpreted.
Okay.
When I say that's my purpose, you're kind of locking me in to an occupation. You could do that in any activity, any occupation.
That's where I was gonna go next. That's where I was going. Where that was the breakthrough. That was one of the breakthroughs I had this year. Right? Is that that's not all being a teacher has to be, right? That's not all education has to be, right? It doesn't have. It's not education. Because mind you too, the examples I was bringing up was school, because that's where like my association was that in order to be that I have to do this. But that was when I realized, yo, this podcast is educational, right? I'm learning things, and I'm not necessarily teaching people, but I'm telling them what I'm learning.
You're sharing it.
And exactly, we're sharing it, right? And if it registers and they learn or they do further investigation, then that's it. That's beautiful to me. That's why I like this shit. That's why it's fun, right?
Look at how you light up.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? When I teach at an after school program, I got my kids for 2 hours a day, bro. I'll go through like the whole rest of the 6 hours out of the 8 hours out of the day, and I'm freaking whatchamacallit. I'm on my computer, The best times during that work day is when I'm working on my class prep, like when I'm like getting ready, what project are we working on? How can I teach the kids how to research, how to do this, how to do that, right? How to formulate a hypothesis, a thesis, whatever the hell, right? And then literally there was one day, like I even told them straight up, like, yo, you guys give me so much energy, because before y'all pulled up, bro, I was tired, I was miserable, I didn't want to fucking be here. I almost called out that day as a whole. But then they pull up, they're like, they sit down, they're looking up, and they're like, yo, I'm ready. And I'm like, fuck, I'm ready too, let's go.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? I just went on a whole ramble, but I think
but this is something, I'm giving over a secret right now.
Please.
People aren't paying attention. Why? Because naturally, you've been programmed to be that little hamster on that spinning wheel. So your face is in the sand, your head is in the sand, and you never take a chance to look up and look around. That's why you have no perspective, and you don't take consideration of like what's happening. What really helped is that when I looked up and he told me that, he didn't need to tell me. Once I saw him break down 5 people's purposes and everybody was like, now people had clarity. They knew where to put their energy towards. That's a game changer. But I didn't need an explanation from Rob. I didn't need a why. I picked up within after I left that environment, that little podcast room, I looked at those 5 individuals because they're my coworkers. I was like, yo, all he did was every time that this woman talks about her kids, she lights up. Look at her eyes. Her eyes go from dead to boom. It just happens. You get energized, unlimited energy.
Yeah.
And it's true about me. Like anytime I'm in that learning mode and then I'm sharing it with other people, that's when I become 10 times more valuable. That's when the game that I be sharing is on some next level shit, cause I have a unique ability. How are you gonna compete against me when I have unlimited energy in my purpose? And what's cool about the learning and the teaching and sharing it with others, I could do any occupation. I could be a consultant, investment banker, I'd be an accountant, I could be a podcaster. You could be everything that I do is secretly me living out my purpose, even now.
It's a form of education, right? We had a therapist on the show, Darlene Vallon, who just started teaching. Yeah, you saw her live at that event, right? And that's her philosophy of being a therapist. It's like, how do I educate my client to deal with their shit? You know what I'm saying, right? And so, I think there's a lot of things. I'm a believer in, to a certain extent, the archetypes, right? You ever heard of the archetypes? So it's an idea formulated by Carl Jung, a 20th century psychologist. He did a lot of work with dreams, and he has a lot of like interesting and relevant ideas. Apparently, a lot of my therapists are of a Jungian sort of branch. And essentially, it's the idea that there are personality types, right? And beyond personality types, You know, you could extend that to perhaps, I think perhaps certain occupational types. That's not like backed by science. I gotta, you know, disclaim that. But it's sort of like, yo, you know, I think certain characters, certain personalities, certain interests and dispositions just incline people to like be very successful in certain things, right? Like you're saying right now, you have unlimited energy in your purpose. And on top of that, you also just have the sort of character and the disposition, right? Not everybody can teach. Not everybody should teach. But everybody who can't, but everybody who should teach, should teach. You know what I'm trying to say?
In terms of just like finding it though, because there's so many people that are distracted, and I worry about that. You could live your whole life with your face in the sand. Your whole life and never look up. Because it's so fast paced, bro. Especially in the Western world, like I see all my friends and like we don't do the greatest job to check in on one another.
That's true.
Like, cause we don't take into consideration like, yo, how you been doing or anything. It has to, sometimes it feels like I have to spark that up and like reach out to people and send them a positive note. But I understand too. I understand like my cousin, I could not see my cousins for a whole year and we never even talked. But then when I see them, it's all love. I understand that, and I'm growing up. Like I don't need anybody to check in on me. But the thing is that there's not enough of that consideration. Like one of my coworkers too. Like she's around late 40s, and she's been married for over a decade now. And when I gave that how to become more influential lesson to my coworkers, she really picked up on the consideration. I was just like, just go about your day and see if you're married, see if your partner, your husband or your wife ask you how your day went. Just take note. And then after that lesson, she was like, yo, Gene, I've been married for so long, my husband's never asked me, nor have I asked him. I was like, well, you just proved my point, like there, go. And then she, from her own like will, was like, I'm gonna ask him today. She recorded that shit. She recorded it and she was like, amor, ¿y cómo te fue el día? And his reaction, bro, he just, for a good 30 seconds, he just looked at her crazy. Like if she, and then he put his hand like that to her head.
To check to see if she had a fever?
Tú estás enferma. And it was funny, like it was a funny reaction. When I saw the video, I died laughing. Because I was like, you see, like it's proving my point. Something so small, like asking something. When you get in a relationship and you have kids, I've never been married, but I know you could forget to ask somebody, how did your day go? You know why? Because your brain is like, oh, I already know how her day went. She works at the same job, deals with the same people. I don't want to hear it. Let's prep the meal, like get to cooking.
Get the job done.
Get the job done. Get the face in the sand, bro. But if you can't look up, you don't even realize that your woman actually cares about that shit. And then she actually kind of secretly hates you because you never ask her how her day went. 2 days later, she's like, Gene, what the fuck? She's like, what the fuck? He's all lovey-dovey now. It was 11 years since he asked me that question, and since I asked him, now they had 2 days after that where he was asking her that same question. And I'm not no fucking therapist or nothing. No. She applied that lesson. And I just pointed it out. But if people do that in their own lives, they take their face out of the sand, they look up, they zoom out, they could see like, yo, I could do something about what's going on here. And if you just put some conscious awareness, and something that I left out last time is conscious effort. Those two combinations, bro, you could be making a lot of progress.
No, absolutely. And I know like conscious effort is especially difficult in the age of short attention spans, right? But it's one of those things too where, I mean, this is what I tell my kids, bro. This is what I do myself. You just gotta like put the timer on and lock in. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not about, life is a marathon, and it's not about doing everything all in one day, right? It's not about settling all the relationship problems or like emotional turmoils all in one day. right? But about making those little steps every day to get a little better, right? Because it's easier, you know, well, you'll get more of something done if you put 20 minutes to it every day rather than if you try to lock in for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you just, yeah, man.
I have frameworks for all this shit.
Yeah,
to simplify it. You gotta simplify shit so you actually could, you know, influence that behavior. And my framework is clarity, 1, commitment, 2, motivation, and willpower. So more specifically, the ability to say no. This shit is like, that's the approach, that's the sauce. And then what I realized, how I came up with and learned what I predicated my self-images is like, I asked myself, Gene, if I do these 4 things, if I commit and I have a clear vision, clear goals, and I have energy, I boost my energy levels. So that goes into how I greet people. How do you feed off my energy? And then the last thing, my ability to say no to distractions. If I got these 4 things, is there something missing to me making progress and reaching the next level and evolving? And I was like, shit, my self-image. Because I could be doing these things, but if secretly I just feel bad about myself, I'm not gonna be as effective. So once I fix my self-image and then I stop like caring about even what like my friends thought, strangers, co-workers, I just don't give a fuck. So what that built in me is that 5-year-old me who's like dope as fuck, funny, took risk, got any girl he wanted, it was just, I let him come out because I could freely express myself. And that's what I was talking with Nick, is like, once you got that, you could be funny now. Funny, you gotta take a risk. You gotta sometimes you gotta violate somebody. A little bit. Phrasing. And it gotta be relevant. It gotta be relevant. You can't just be talking about medieval times. It's not gonna be funny. It's not relevant. But if you talk about something that's relevant and it's at the right timing and you take that risk, people are gonna laugh. Just pay attention to these things. And then me, it's like, I haven't been dancing since I was like 15. But now after like 8 years have passed, like when I'm around people, I dance. We playing a game that like, oh, somebody gotta dance to a song. I don't look away. If somebody's gonna pick, I'll just pick me, dog. I'll do it right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like unlocking that has been a true, I could create more beautiful moments now. So I'm not even measuring like how much money I'm making or the return on investments of like investments I'm making. I'm still, of course you gotta measure those things. But like I'm also measuring how many beautiful moments have I created in this month? How many times have I smiled? How many times have I laughed, danced, sang with no care in the world? I'll be at the gym and if I feel like I gotta bust a move, I'll bust a move. Cause what you unlock is what other people can't see. They just don't know.
Moving with no inhibitions, bro. You know, like you are genuinely yourself.
The word I would use is you've unlocked true joy.
Yeah.
Because I think joy comes when you eliminate concern for those things that diminish your perceptions and images and increase the amount of things that bring and add positive value and that just create more authenticity in your life, man. That's crazy.
Breakthrough.
Oh,
Yo.
shit.
Yeah, I could genuinely say that, bro. This last month that I've lived, I just feel like I've laughed, smiled, danced like more than I did the whole 10 months, the first 10 months. In a month, I outlived, out-experienced, had more beautiful moments, went out more, man, improved my relationships incredibly, my production, my productivity at work, my relationships with my clients, my ability to sell, my articulation skills, everything. So much could change for you within a month. And it's just like, oh shit, now that I'm committed and I understood this shit, last couple times and people were impressed by me externally, like they were like, yo, this kid got potential and shit. It was just because I was rolling the dice and shit happened on accident. Like I didn't have clear frameworks and like I couldn't tell you why like shit went out. So a lot of it was luck and not that much skill. But then now it's like I could create my own luck. Now I feel the luckiest because when you have the game, like when you have things that work and you understand to its core why it works, everything's intentional. You don't waste any opportunity, even the opportunity to greet the clerk at the grocery store. You do it differently now. You don't just have your headphones in, charge me up and I'm out. It's like, yo, hey Nick, yo, how's your day going, brother? And then it just feels different. He's like, yo, this is like 50 people just checked out and he's the first person who showed me some love.
No, that is remarkable. Oh, wow. I guess, I think, now it's about time almost to wrap up, but I guess I want to exit on one question.
Yeah.
And that would be, what's in store for the rest of chapter 2?
Oof. Well, chapter 2 is coming to a close. This is going to be my chapter 3.
All right.
So really maturing and setting my own foundation. Like I have no distractions now, no excuses. Like I've curated my environment. All my friends think like this now. Yeah, thank God, bro. It took so much time. But it's so much easier now because my friends amplify what I'm already doing. Back then, it was like my friends would be distracted. Like, yo, the football game last night, that shit was crazy, bro. You saw that play? And I would be into that shit. That's what I was interested in. That's what I cared about. But nah, bro, my friends, slowly but surely, I was just planting these seeds, and it's not through me, bro. It was not me. I promise you. It's like a mastermind. It was just a chain of events that happened. It was like, oh, Daniel gave me this piece, and then Nick gave me this piece, and then this person, and it just came about. But what I'm seeing is like, even at work, there's less distraction. The concentration level is different. The conversations levels is different. I don't know exactly. I can't tell you exactly the amount of growth that we're about to experience, but I know it's going to happen. I just know. I trust it. I could predict it with all my life. And the level of commitment, bro, Rob, bro, just being around him, that one relationship has
changed you.
It has done wonders, you know?
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know if I would have discovered my purpose as fast as possible. What got me a little tight was that it's like, yo, Gene, I knew this about you in terms of the purpose since the first time we went out to lunch, bro, when you were 18. I was like, damn, dog. I was like, fuck, bro. I was like, come on, you could have told me this like a lot sooner. And he was just like, I don't think you were ready.
Nah, because no guarantee, like me, right? You have to be ready to accept it. You know what I'm saying? You have to reach a certain level of maturity where you might have heard that, and then you might not have thought exactly what I thought, but you might have thought something along a similar category or similar lines, right? Something that wasn't what it was, maybe, right?
Another thing too is like when you hear something, like say Nick tells me something true about myself, it's harder to accept because it feels borrowed. It feels like Nick doesn't know me better than I know myself, but maybe Nick really does because Nick really knows himself. So that, I accepted it because he has a vision that's attractive to me. It's a borrowed vision, but it aligns so well what I'm attracted to that it just intersects. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't think it's necessarily a borrowed vision, man, but rather somebody just observing what you didn't know.
Yeah, just didn't know, you know?
Because it's like, it's the thing where people could tell you things about yourself that you don't know about yourself. But that's because perception versus perspective. If you're locked in your own head and your own perception, you can't see your own face without a mirror.
To use JP's words, he took your head out of the sand for you.
Yeah, he did that.
He showed you, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Bro, like, widen your vision. Like, you can, and so not a borrowed vision, I would say more of a shared vision.
No,
Shared.
I like that. Nah, on that note, my friends, watch your worldview, watch out for your head being in the sand, take yourself out of your perception and take some perspective. And make sure you take some perspective on that like and subscribe button.
Like and subscribe. Let's get it.
Saying?
Yo, always a pleasure, dog. Learned so much from you today.
Yeah,
and Nick, shout out Nick, bro.
Yeah.
Can you help
blink 4 times and 4 years done passed by. It only felt like 4 damn minutes done passed by. I done seen how quick life can pass by. You done live, you done loved and cried like mad times. Like oh my, then had a whole crowd say oh my. But that was mad times, that was past times. Like how I was focused on my ex's life. But that's a past life. I got this new life and this new boo thing.